The At Home Show.
20 years ago today, a terrible tragedy befell America. And here at the At Home Show, we would like to take a moment to remember those who died during the attacks on the Twin Towers, those on the plane that hit the Pentagon, and those that went down in that Pennsylvania field. We also remember the men and women in uniform who help protect this country every day, whether it's overseas with the military or as a firefighter, police officer, EMT, medical worker, whatever the case might be. So many of them gave their lives and their health to help save others. So on today, the 20th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, the At Home Show says thank you to all the men and women in uniform who continue to serve and protect this country. Live from the Green Room Studios, from the spacious property of Bates Nursery and Garden Center, 3810 Whites Creek Pike, it's the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates.
Oh yeah, welcome in everybody. It's Saturday morning. It means it's time for the At Home Show. I am Josh Cary. That man over there is...
And I am David Bates.
Yes, he is. That person over there...
Don't try to say my name.
I will say your name if I want to say your name. David Bates.
Okay.
My name's Mike Stevenson, and so we don't have Josh anymore. I told you, David, I would cut him off.
Well, it's early in the program. But you got to do what you got to do.
Right at the top.
Okay. You been talking to my wife?
I don't have to. I mean, we all know how to handle you.
Okay.
David, get the weather up, hurry.
And it's his birthday today as well, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, you know, in
Austin and I are going to take him out there behind the earth
we're all day today. That's the nature of life. And thanks for that intro, Michael, this morning.
Very well.
Great remembrance of 20 years, unbelievably. It's been that long. Today is September 11th. It's going to be sunny today. Really nice conditions. 86 degrees. Thankfully, the swelter and the extraordinarily high temperatures of August have passed us by now. Doesn't mean it's not going to continue to warm up a bit, but we're going to be in the upper 80s and sunshine for the most part all the way through Tuesday. We do have a chance of showers move in by Wednesday. It looks like that could continue on through the end of next week, but it is glorious right now. It is 57 degrees. Can you believe that? In the Music City. So
it's been a Windows open kind of night.
There are no excuses for not getting it done today.
None at all. I mean, any project that you want to get done outside, whether it's planting something new or ripping something out, because you plant a shrub, but you remove a bush, right, David? Is that how that works? That old skanky
those names are synonymous, and if you need to play with the vernacular to in order to set the tone correctly in your head,
to justify it to yourself.
I default back to the definition of what a weed is, and a weed is a plant out of place. So something that you planted a few years ago might now be a weed. You might be looking to remove that weed because it's become a plant out of place.
I understand.
Either that or just relocated.
All right, 615-499-6690. If you want to interact live, you'll go to a voicemail initially, and then if we know you, we'll call you back, or if you just leave your question there, and that's okay. You can interact on Instagram. You can interact on live on the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates Facebook page. If you have multiple follows on Facebook and you get a couple of them, we will monitor the show page. We'll glance through some of the others in case there's a question that comes up there. Or hey, you can just sit back and enjoy the show. Throw it up on the big screen and see what's happening in the living room, because it's on YouTube as well.
Don't forget about our Instagram page over there. I don't know if you mentioned that or not, but Cary takes care of that, and she's all over it. And so check that out. There's a whole lot of ways to, as Josh just mentioned, to reach us and to interact today, because we're here to talk about what you want to talk about. Yep. We will, I think, appropriately start off with some thoughts about where you were 20 years ago today. And the skies are clear this morning. It's eerily reminiscent of Yeah, that's the one big memory I have, that if you looked at the weather map on September 11th for 2001, there was not a cloud in the sky from coast to coast, which is extraordinarily unbelievable. I mean, it's extremely rare, but were no clouds anywhere. And the days, for the couple of days that followed, there also were no clouds. But of course, there were also no planes other than military aircraft.
Right. And I remember it was a crisp Tuesday morning, and the lumberyard was hopping. I mean, it was a hive of activity, as it always is at this time of the year. And we actually pulled out a TV and put it up in the what we called the bullpen, and watched the events react. Again, the words still fail me for what it was going on with it. But as you mentioned, David, the airplanes, I remember getting up the next morning before daylight and going outside to just to reflect a little bit, and looking up at that sky without any contrails or chemtrails or blinking lights flashing across. I don't know that we've seen it since, or for that short period of time that the entire world came to a complete halt. So, again, as Michael mentioned during the intro, and you did a great job there. Thank you to all the service members and all the first responders and everybody that was in and around the area. And never forget, ladies and gentlemen, never forget. So, but when you were about 7 years old then, right?
Well, I'm going to say everybody else in the studio outside of you and I, Josh, were kids.
Well, I was
still in junior high or high school.
I was a kid.
I'm interested to know that perspective.
I was 17. I was a senior in high school.
Wow.
I was taking group senior pictures, and we were leaving the gym, and one of my buddies said, we didn't know what had happened. He said France had been attacked, is what I remember specifically him telling me. And we were like, okay, so why is everyone such a, buzzing about that? And then we went back to our foods class, and me and my buddy Justin and my other buddy Frank, we just munched on some potato chips, and the teacher ran in there with a cart, and we just stayed in that class the rest of the day and watched it. And some schools let out early. Ours didn't, if I recall right. And we just went home. We went back to school the next day, and it was kind of weird. It is my birthday, so a lot of people were like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm not really worried about my birthday today, guys.
Nobody's going to forget it ever again.
You'd be surprised.
You're right. Cary,
a happy birthday to my stepmom, by the way. Martha Bates is 96 today, and she is incredible. So I just wanted to throw that in there while I'm thinking about it. And happy birthday to you, Michael.
Where was Cary on September 11th on that day? You remember?
I do remember, yes. I think I was a freshman in high school. Was supposed to be in school, but I wasn't. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But my mom called me. She knew I was home. I was just taking a day. She called me from work to turn on the TV, and so from home I got to watch all the things go down.
Austin?
I was in the 7th grade.
Whoa, 7th grade.
I didn't realize you were that much younger than me, Austin.
Yeah,
you're the baby
I'm
of the room.
Young. Me and Tyler are the exact same age, actually. I think we're like a week apart.
I was in 7th grade, too.
Yeah, and I remember just sitting in the classroom, and one of the male teachers opened the door oddly, and he just said, hey, I think you ought to turn on the television. And my 7th grade teacher looked at him kind of confused and was like, you're kind of interrupting my class. It was social studies is what we were talking about, and she was kind of annoyed by him, and she didn't turn on the TV at first. She didn't know, and then I guess she noticed some more hustle and bustle around the hallways and such, and then she finally turned the TV on, and then pretty much for the rest of the day, all we did was just watch the live coverage on it.
Unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And Tyler?
I was also in 7th grade. I think the first thing I heard about it, the morning was kind of normal, but then it became unsettled, and then by lunchtime, I had heard a kid say, somebody flew a plane into the Pittsburgh Steelers stadium. And I was like, are you kidding me? What does that even mean? Why would somebody do that? But then I realized, like, throughout the day, also in social studies, because my teacher, Mr. Stagner, he was just like, you're going to want to remember this, and you know, and we're not doing anything else today. This is like history. So we just watched the television, and then I think we excused a little earlier for the day because nobody knew what was going to get hit next if we were under attack.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're there, if you remember that, again, this is open format. You know, we talk about landscaping and home improvement issues here on the At Home Show. But if you've got a memory you want to post it up here, or give us a shout and see what's going on. We'll wax philosophic. What I do remember, David, is back in those days, we were on this little station over here in Nashville called 99.7 WTN. Yep. And immediately after the attacks, they started covering, and it was the first time that I can really remember the 24-hour news cycle taking effect and locking down everything that was going on the media. And
well, I will say that I will admit that I got sucked back into the news. You know, I'm one of those people. It works better for me to just avoid the news and the information age that we live in today, and that's all of us. You can't possibly avoid it, but for several days, I got sucked back into that loop of that regurgitation of the
over and on and
along, and it's difficult. I do remember that we got preempted that day when we were scheduled to be on the program the Saturday following. And that was one of the few times that we actually did not broadcast.
David, I have a different recollection.
Commercial spots.
Well, was it the first week or the second week? Because I remember us being the first live program after the event.
I think you're mistaken, or I am one. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure it's one or the other of us. So.
No, well, so 9/11 back then happened on a
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right. So the following Saturday, I'm sure is the one that we were not on there. I might be wrong about that, but regardless, we did get preempted one of those Saturdays, and then life for all of us as we now know it has forever changed, and we've and the continuing adjustment to those changes is just what part of life is all about today. I think this past year has given us a reminder of that, of just how occurrences, pretty much everything that happens of significance is a global kind of thing. So,
do you guys remember what airports used to be like?
Oh yeah.
Pardon me?
You remember what airports used to be like? You just go straight to the gate.
Oh yeah, you could walk back and see people away from the gate and just wave goodbye as they're backing out of the plane for whatever good that is. I don't understand, but yes, very, very different.
My father used to carry a hat box. Now, my father was a retired military person, but during his active duty days, he carried his hat box with him, and inside that hat box was a hat, of course, but there was also a Colt 1911 45 pistol, and it went on airplanes all over the world. So you could also smoke cigarettes on the plane back in those days.
That's a good change that you can't.
Yeah.
So
imagine the look of those HEPA filters.
It was always bad, particularly when you got seated in the non-smoking area. That was one row behind the smoking area.
Oh yeah.
Now, you're smoking whether you like it or not. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
The way it was anyway.
All right, 615-499-6690. We've got plants to talk about. We've got all kinds of things to talk about this morning. I mean, it's something that we don't ever want to forget, but hey, life does go on. So, and we're continuing to do that. So,
absolutely.
And as your traditional
Cary,
Saturday
by
morning
chance,
program,
do we have anything out there on the Instagram for questions out there for us this morning?
Why, yes, we do. We have a handful of questions. We'll ease into it this morning. So our first question comes from Rach_libs. Do you have Venus flytraps? Yes, we do. We have quite a few right now. So come on down and see us and get you a Venus flytrap. I actually talked about those a couple weeks ago.
We have talked about those a couple of weeks ago, but it's worth mentioning if you have a really bad fly problem, you're going to need a lot of them, aren't you?
If you want them to handle your fly problem, yes, you probably will need quite a few. And if it is a bad one, just fill up your windows with Venus flytraps. But we do have plenty. think we got about 15 or 20. I watered them yesterday, so I saw them all, and they all look fantastic.
Got to keep them pretty moist, don't you?
You do. You don't want to let them dry out fully. Some people keep them sitting in like a dish of water, so they like to stay moist. They're the coolest plants ever. I love them.
Little swampy plants, though.
Little swampy plants. Don't feed them ground beef, though. We did have somebody that was trying to do that. So, okay, on to our next question. This one is a little bit broad, and we'll see what you guys have to say about this. I don't know. Austin probably has a lot of input on it. It comes from Alina VS25. How do you winterize a greenhouse? You were just building one.
I think Mr. Bates probably knows this more
knows
so
all
than,
of it.
than any of us do.
Well, we all got a firsthand look at what can happen in the winter months, particularly when you have a heavy amount of frozen precipitation that can sit on top of the roof. Now, we have a couple of structures, these long buildings that have been built 47 years ago, and we've never had, it's made out of steel tubing. They're quite strong. However, regardless of how strong something is, there are limits to that strength. And on one of the buildings that did not have quite as much support, we got about 6 inches of snow, and then we got 2 inches of ice on top of that. And actually, I think it was the other way around. The ice came first, and then the snow, and then the building came down. It collapsed directly. So all that is to say that if as you move into the winter months, you really should have some kind of supports already cut where you can stand in place once you're into the winter season. I would want to have that done, by December.
Yeah.
And you already have them cut and have everything worked up, set them in place. You don't have to leave them in place, but you need to be ready so that when the season approaches, that you're ready to put those up, because you have to go right down the center of the building with them, obviously, because that's the way the purlings run from end to end. But if you put a couple of those within your structure, perhaps only one, depending on the length of it, it'll provide additional strength. The ends will do well on protecting the ends, but you got to have something to support the mid sections of it. So, if it's a 20-foot house, probably one's enough. If you have 40 feet, you might need to put 2 in there, but those can be easily fabricated out of some 2x4s in a notch, and that's where
saxophores or 2x4s.
We've got some work we're going to be doing this winter.
Flutiophores.
One we just redid that did not collapse.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to assume that can never happen, so we will be putting some kind of structure in that this year to avoid that problem in the future.
Well, and if you've got some of these structures that I've seen that are, that have a tarp, for lack of a better word, as the roof structure, and a Quonset type of rounded kind of a thing, or even some with a pitched roof, if you can keep the ice or snow off, just get the broom and knock it down as you go. If you see it building up, now, I mean, this storm that we had this last year was a little bit of a different situation, but it does thaw a little bit during the daytime. So if you can get a little bit, as much off of it as you can, it's the best thing to do. Ice dams form, and in the proper ways. But I walked around the house when we were frozen in and knocked icicles off every day, just to keep it from backing up. A lot of people, Josh, like us here at Bates Nursery, we use shade cloths on top of the plastic. So I'm saying this as a reminder to Austin and others, as to myself, is that before winter arrives, that needs to be removed, because that shade cloth is like a screen material. So it grabs a hold of whatever and it prevents it from sliding down and getting into the trench or the gutter between the buildings, and that will greatly increase the possibility of damage that can occur due to ice or snow buildup. Yep. So we got to remember to do that, Austin, just FYI.
Yeah, I got you. We will. Also, too, if you're winterizing houseplants over the winter, you got a greenhouse, you want to keep some stuff in, first off, you got to heat it over our winters here. That can get expensive, but also, too, taking off the shade cloth is going to add for more light over the wintertime, which helps with heat during the day as well, keeping those costs a little lower, because sure, David, heat's kind of pricey.
It's a little pricey. Now, one of the things that we do, and it's commercially done everywhere, is instead of having a single layer of plastic on a greenhouse, you actually put 2 layers on there. But you don't just put 2 layers of plastic on there. You also install an air pump where you pull air in from outside the structure and you blow it in between the 2 layers of plastic. And what this causes it obviously to inflate and creates an insulating air cushion in between. Also,
is it like that double glass, David?
Yeah,
it's like that double insulated stuff.
It keeps the greenhouse from dripping in the wintertime.
Yep.
And, when you're not ventilating, that's a major problem. So by adding a second layer of plastic and by pumping air in between those layers, you're able to create a dry zone and an insulated zone that will keep condensation from forming on the underside of it, so you don't get those drips those cold drips in the wintertime like you would otherwise. And it also greatly improves the efficiency of your heating. So it's an important thing if you're going to try to heat over the winter.
Well, and a lot of folks have got a little small area, right? I mean, if you've got like a small garden shed that you're going to try to heat, you're not going to have to really heat it up tremendously. You just want to keep it above freezing and look at your zones. I mean, if you get down to that teens and stuff like
if you've got, depending on what kind of tropicals you've got in there, just above freezing is not.
Well, you need to keep it in that 50.
You've got to be at the lowest point about the mid 40s.
Okay.
And that still seems pretty cool, and it is, and most things will survive at that. You really got to bring that on up to at least 50 degrees if you want to keep things growing during the winter months. It's a little chilly. So again, it depends entirely on what you're trying to grow and maintain over the winter months.
Yep, very good. 615-499-6690. Have we got anything, got any voicemails, Michael? Oh, no.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
Not yet. I'm waiting.
But another thing that I've noticed that at the proving grounds, we have a basement. And it's surrounded on with earth all the way around, so it is a bit like a cave. So that area stays fairly warm in the wintertime. It's not a heated or conditioned area. I just take a couple of brooder lamps down into an area and try to just keep that one little zone a little warmer.
I always have known you were the brooding type. That's just kind of the way you roll.
It's that deepness of my personality. Is that what you're saying?
Actually, the first greenhouse when my grandmother started Bates Nursery and Bates Florist back in the day, back in 1932, it was built as the lower half of the structure was built in the ground.
Wow.
And for that same reason, it really provides a lot of additional insulation. So that was the technology that was used then, and it still works. You use the earth to grab as much heat as possible, and that will certainly offset a lot of the cold temperatures. Not all of it, but it'll offset a lot of it that you'll experience during the evening hours when the sun is out of sight.
Sun is sinking low. All right, Cary, do we have anything else?
We do. We have one more question. Coming in from Low Main 5678. My Yoshino cherry is losing almost all of its leaves. Is it dying? They sound very concerned through all of the punctuation they used. So
is Low Chow's little brother?
Todd, I'm gonna let you jump on this one. It's obviously it's not dying, but it's doing what cherries do this time of year. They always are the first to defoliate.
Yes, they are. Unfortunately, we love cherries in the spring. They're one of the first signs of spring. Beautiful white blooms come out before the leaves do, so it makes for this huge, just white show. I'm on a fairly small growing tree. That's it's a good plant, don't get me wrong, but it does shut down earlier than other things. So even old, mature Yoshino cherries, I've been noticing for the past couple weeks now, really, they've already started to shed. So most of them only have about, 20-25% of their leaves at mainly the top of the plant. They've already started to drop down low. Totally normal. It's something we have to deal with here. Cherries actually up north have fairly good fall color. Down here, not a chance. They lose their leaves before they ever get a chance to show any fall color. So stick in there. It's going to come back next spring just fine, but unfortunately we have to deal with the leaf drop early.
I've seen a lot of blast this year too. I went by a patch of Bradford's that was just, it looked like it was late February. And about 15 feet down the road were some magnolias Are there magnolia varieties that bloom this late, or is that just a blast bloom as well?
Yes, it is. They're sporadic. All magnolias, honestly, they can surprise you. Shoot, Cary's told me before you got a Jane magnolia. She's got a deciduous magnolia, and it blooms
3 times a year.
3 times.
You still don't believe me?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it sporadically blooms 3 times a year, but
even photoshopping those images.
Hey, I'm gonna prove it to you guys.
But magnolias are just funny about that. Even the big southern mags. We've got some on the lot right now that are showing some blooms. And it is a little late for that, but it's kind of just the weather. Whenever the weather is permitting, they'll throw a sporadic bloom. So pretty cool when they do that.
Absolutely.
Well, everything couldn't be much better weather-wise right now. And so let's take a moment and talk about Bates Nursery and Garden Center. Of course, when you have weather as wonderful as it is right now, Josh, Michael, and all, people naturally get excited, and we're really in full gear here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. We've got Cary's primary area, the greenhouse, completely redone. We've gotten in a huge amount more tropicals this week, so she'll certainly be enthusiastic about showing you what all we have in there along with everyone else. Also, we have a complete selection of all cool season annuals for fall, whether you're talking pansies, violas, or ornamental plants such as ornamental cabbage and kale or Swiss chard, a whole selection of things, way too many to list going down. Plus, we also have cool season vegetables. So for those of you who are gardeners, who are ready to make that transition from summer garden into fall garden, now's the time to get started on that. And even if you don't want to plant those yet, you might want to consider getting those in. Things often in the fall in particular run in short supply. If you're looking for things like spinach, you really ought to come out pretty quickly and get those acquired, whether you plant them right now or not. Now, in addition to those things, obviously, we have everything else you could think of: perennials, ornamental grasses. We just got in a huge shipment of trees this week, so we've got, and Austin, I'll get you to speak to that a bit. What all do we have in the way of trees that have come in this week?
We've got a full semi-load of deciduous trees, so all 15-gallon and 25-gallon material, which is some of the larger trees that we sell if you want something a little bit more established and ready to go. And I'll let you know, y'all, that truck is a lot of work. It takes us a long time to get that done. It's very, very physical. Once they come off the truck, that's only the first step. Then we've got to get them all set and moved, untied in lines, staked down to the ground. So it's full of labor. We got it all done in pretty much a day and a half, which is
that's
a
amazing.
testament to our staff here. We can really work, and we get stuff done. And I will say, this truck that came in, it came from Mountain Creek, which is a grower out of McMinnville. Every single tree that came off that truck was almost perfect. I mean, they do an excellent job.
They really do. And Mike Hallam and his whole staff, they do a wonderful job. So we're proud to be able to offer those Tennessee-grown trees right here in Nashville. And those are available for all of you to come out and see us. And no matter what you've got going on in your landscape, we always encourage you to take some photographs of the areas that you're working on, be it on your smartphone or on a tablet. Bring those along, and our entire staff, be it Austin, Cary, Adam, Ben, Shannon, any Joy, all the great folks here at Bates Nursery, we're glad to help you look at your unique landscape situation, help you to get the right plants, the right trees, the right shrubs, the right fall color in the right place the first time. And that's the way we do it here. We also are proud to offer the complete line of Earth Mix garden products. So no matter what your landscape situation is, be it organic gardening, you might want supernatural organic compost or Earth Mix garden, or if you're doing indoor plants, Proganics Eye, we have the complete line here at Bates Nursery. So come out and see us. We're conveniently located a mile north of Briley Parkway at exit 19 on Whites Creek Pike. That's just minutes from Rivergate, Opry Mills, downtown Nashville, West Nashville. You come see us. Worth the drive from anywhere. Bates Nursery and Garden Center. And it is indeed the Goldilocks Zone. Do encourage you to, if you're not subscribing to my newsletter, check that out. Try to bring you some information that's
once a week,
timely.
It's
and,
just once a week, and it's worth it.
Entertainment.
Mm-hmm. It's worth it. I look forward to it every week.
Speaking of timely information, next week, Austin is going to be leading a fall garden prep webinar September 15th.
We've gotten a little past the fall garden prep, and we're into fall garden do it.
Well, that's basically what it'll be.
Yeah, pretty much.
Will that broadcast live on Wednesday? Is that right?
That's going to be a live broadcast at 11 a.m.
Cool.
Well,
I'll be
and
ready.
of course, if you can't catch it conveniently at the live broadcast portion, it will be recorded and restreamed on demand. So that's always available out there at the Bates Nursery website, batesnursery.com, and just scroll down to the Bates Nursery Botanical Boot Camp link on there, and then everything that we do, everything we have done is all archived out there. So check it out.
Yeah, and I will say, David, your the Goldilocks Zone this week I thought was very fitting because a lot of people don't understand the fall season. What you need with fall crops and with pansies as well is what we want is these perfect warm days with cool nights. So we've got plenty of sunshine. We've got to get these plants growing, y'all. Like they got to have enough warmth to actually grow, so we can't wait too long for the weather to stay too cool for them to actually get up there. We need them to get up in big. Broccoli, cabbage, kale, all the brassicas especially, we've got to get them big enough to where if we do get somewhat of a little frosty, later on in the season, they're usually big enough to where they can kind of handle a light frost. And then if we get a hard freeze or something, we need to cover with some sort of material. But bigger plants, whenever you get them up and big enough, they can handle a light freeze as the fall goes on, because here in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, we have to deal with that almost every year. So when it comes to pansies and fall crops, we got to get them in. It's time to go.
When's
Yeah,
the
that's
first?
always the most difficult thing for people to do is to make that transition from I've got these beautiful summer annuals and they'll look gorgeous. And if you want to have really good color throughout the winter, there comes a point where you've got to commit to just removing them
It's
and
time, folks.
going back in the ground with your winter color.
Yeah, exactly.
Because as you just mentioned, Austin, if you don't get those established now, they're really not going to be able to deal with the ravages of the cooler weather during the winter. Now, they're tough plants, but they'll be slower to recover after cold spells. So keep that in mind. We always encourage you if you really are feeling strongly about these annuals you've got, we'll gladly give you enough empty containers, a little 1 gallon containers that you can dig up your plants and pot them up and either enjoy them on the patio or on your deck area, or give them to friends as gifts. So that's another way to help yourself to get beyond the summer zone of plants and move on into fall.
Yeah. I think a big misconception with pansies especially is that they like the cold weather. I mean, they're very hardy plants, yes, and they chill in the cold weather just fine. But they don't actively grow over the wintertime. They're not like they're just pushing growth. When they're pushing their growth is right now, whenever they've got sunshine days, mid-80s, mid-70s, whatever, where they're actively growing, get them nice and bushy for the winter, and then they sit over the wintertime. They still bloom a good amount over the winter, but they don't grow. So we got to get them growing now.
And the other side of that coin is that once we get through the winter, when the pansies and violas and those cool season plants really make their show is in the late winter, early spring, when they begin to, there's the more difficult because they're gorgeous looking at that point. And what that will help you to do is to be patient and wait to put your springtime annuals in enough. So you can enjoy those on into April and get beyond all past of the danger of frost and freezes so that you can then plant your summer annuals and not have the concerns about there being frosting and freezing conditions that could knock those back.
Oh, we could be
the
at
pansies can handle it.
Yeah, it could be 20 degrees at Christmas, or could we be walking around in t-shirts and shorts at Christmas? You never know.
Correct.
Because this is where all the weather in Middle Tennessee, in particular, is where it all comes to change its mind. Mm-hmm. So then we know what's going on. Now, Tyler, did you get your project that you were talking about last night? Did you get that completed?
Which one are we talking about?
With the pictures that you were talking about that you sent out late, that was about it was almost bedtime when you sent them out.
Why you gotta call a man out like that?
I didn't call him out.
I mean, it was bedtime, and I did in fact go to bed instead of doing. But I did upload some things today. The formatting on a couple of the videos is just totally wrong, and there's no way to fix it in this program that I'm running
Okay.
for the show. But I can still show it.
Okay. I mean, now what we were set the tone. Tyler went on vacation, and he deserved it. And you saw some very interesting things. Tell us where you were, sir.
I was in Boston. I was in New England.
Okay, up there where the Yankees are. Okay.
What?
The Yankees.
If I said that up there, I would get sacked. I mean, I almost was gonna say like Red Sox suck when there's a Tampa Bay Rays game going on in a bar, but I
was not the New York Yankees. I was just using the broader Yankee, as it were.
Yeah,
so.
but you could be confused with that if you go out with that up there. So
you don't. You could probably toss in a couple of Tom Brady references or Brady's and TV Tom and got away with them now. But
someone did make a Patriots joke on the plane on the way home. It was bold, but he was Scandinavian or something. He got away with it.
That's like an Alabama joke in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
All right.
But Boston was lovely, and on our final day I found out that there was this garden that has been maintained since the World War II Victory Garden days.
Wow.
And I believe it was called the Fenway Gardens. I believe that's what it was. And it's part of the Emerald Necklace, which is a string of 9 different parks that were originally created by Frederick Olmsted, the creator of Central Park. And there you go. There's a park called Olmsted Park, and then there's another. I mean, it's all just like connected. And where I was in the Back Bay Fens. So I have this handy little video, which I'm gonna cut to.
Okay.
It's probably gonna look terrible, so just bear with me here. Okay, so I'm zooming in, and we're sideways, and this is Boston.
Okay.
And I'm zooming in. Right.
Google Earth. I mean, you never know where you are on Google Earth, so
that's okay.
That was where I was, and then here's another beautiful, also sideways video of the Victory Gardens. They're 500 plots.
Wow.
And I think there's like 375 gardeners.
It's amazing how those are able to grow perpendicular to the forces of gravity.
Well, gravity in
Up
Boston
there-
and up there is just a little bit different.
Up there, the Earth is just sideways. It's just there's no getting away with it. And then also nearby here is a perfectly perspective correct rose garden
Ooh.
that is connected to the same park. It's just maybe like a block away. It has
what Tyler has just demonstrated is another reason why you should never shoot videos in portrait mode. You should always shoot in landscape mode.
Ironically, my screen recording was recorded horizontally and it flipped itself.
Well, that's very strange.
That is very anomalistic. But here we are.
Thank you for that, Tyler.
So,
so
there's
a lot going on right now.
Yes, there's a lot going on. The gardens were popping off, and I met one of the past presidents of the Emerald Necklace Conservancy, and she was wonderful. She was releasing monarch butterflies. They had released up to 326 or 328 monarchs this season up there. So there were monarchs feeding in the gardens, and people were growing milkweed. There's also a very lovely blue native sage that was taller than me in size that grows up there. I think it was like a bog sage. And so I learned about some natives. There's a lot of native common milkweed up there. It's just obviously a really gorgeous area. Beyond there, like the containers, all the containers are popping off. It doesn't look like anything's having problems. There's hawthorn and apples and cherries up there. It's like a different horticultural world.
I will say on the topic of monarchs, I was privileged to get to go to La Estatua de Michoacan, the state of Michoacan in Mexico, where they overwinter by the tens of millions. And, perhaps next week I will I'll bring a little video in that I shot at the time, but all the trees appear to have this fuzzy look and growth on them, and it's not growth or anything growing on the trees. It's the millions of monarch butterflies that are side by side, packed in together, and this is where they overwinter. It's at above 10,000 feet elevation in a very few spots in Mexico, in the obviously high in the mountains of Mexico. So that's one of those bucket list type things that
if you can.
But I don't know that I would do it again because it's a lot. It's a full day, if not a 2-day trip, to get up there, to get to see them, and to get back. So it's a worthwhile experience, and it's hard to believe that you could actually hear butterflies flying. There's so many of them. It sounds like a waterfall almost. So pretty cool.
I have to add, while I was on Cape Cod, even I spotted monarch butterflies out on the Cape, and I'm like, how did you get out here? Like, it's a finger in the middle of the ocean, but you are there, and you're going to end up in Mexico, hopefully.
And you know what's strangely enough, that from the time that the monarchs leave to the time that they return, 5 different generations have occurred. Yeah. So the ones who leave Mexico have never been anywhere else, and they fly and they go through the whole various stages of the pupa and the chrysalis, and they come back to, and then they do that 5 times and return back to Mexico, never having been there before, every year, which is one of those things that makes you go, how do they do that? It's pretty interesting.
Planet Earth did that, did a segment on that where they followed them the whole way, all the way up into our country and then down into Mexico. And I've seen pictures of what you're talking about, David, when the millions of them on those trees. It's pretty stunning.
It is amazing. 615-499-6690. Now, that's how you get in touch with us if you want to do a voicemail or a text message. Michael has that. But
I'm waiting with bated breath by the phone.
We get one thing in here before we go too much further, because, she's worked hard. She's got things on her mind, and I think it's time for a plant rant with Cary Gant.
Sometimes she just needs to vent a little. It's Plant Rants with Cary Gant.
Yay! Here I am. First off,
I jumped in there. I gave you no heads up hardly at all. So
I'm always
take
ready.
it away.
I am always ready. Happy birthday, Michael.
Thanks.
37.
Yeah.
And Tyler, I'm glad you're back. Welcome home.
And thanks for coming back in after being on vacation, to make sure we stay on the air. So thank you, Tyler.
Hey, sure.
Keeping us running.
Also, major props to Caroline for running some of the social media and responding to customers in my absence. Mm-hmm. You did a wonderful job. It was like nothing, like I didn't leave.
It's a lot of work. I enjoyed it. Glad I could fill your shoes a little bit while you were gone.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about our changes in the garden center with the houseplants, with the tropicals. We actually got our largest shipment of houseplants and that I've ever seen here. And I'm going to go ahead and say it's safe to assume it's probably the largest houseplant shipment we've ever gotten here at Bates Nursery. Took days to check in and price. So there is a lot of exciting stuff going on around tropicals, houseplants. But one thing that I'm very excited about is we now have a bonsai section right outside the garden center.
Wow.
It is wow. I've been wanting to get that going a little bit, just kind of grow our bonsai. We have a lot of customers that come in looking for them, looking for different varieties. And we actually found that one of our pottery suppliers also supplies bonsai, and that was what they did before they moved into pottery. So these all came from Lattes. This is just a very small sampling of what we do have outside the garden center. So to my right, and I know Josh this morning was naming them, so maybe as I point them out, Josh, you can let everyone know what you did in fact name them.
Miyagi would be the big one.
Right here, the big one, the big juniper right beside me, and now down in front.
Daniel-san.
Okay.
Daniel-san.
Are you going to take those home today?
I would just love to, but I would probably kill it.
Oh, I don't think you would kill it.
I don't.
I think people's biggest mistake with bonsai, specifically probably these, and Austin can chime in as well, is that I think people try to bring them inside because they think of them as houseplants, when in fact they probably do better outdoors all year round.
But that little juniper there, now that one right there, do you have any idea? No, the bigger of the two.
What was his name again? You got to name him.
Miyagi. Would you have any idea the age of that one?
Yes, actually, we do. In fact, they put them on these tags. So this one is approximately 11. Thank you, Austin.
11 years old.
11 years old. 11
How
years
big do
young.
those get?
depends on how you play with it. It's all about.
If you're going for optimal size, how big does it get?
I mean, do you want it to get giant? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. I'm just curious. Do they get as big as normal trees or not? I don't know anything about it.
Well, Michael, again,
because that is a procumbens nana juniper. Am I not?
Yes,
Is that
You're
not correct? And so they are by nature a fairly slow growing, low growing type of plant. So what you do in your bonsai is that there's a dwarfing process that goes on where you take them out and you prune the roots and then you replant them. And then they are made to grow upright, at least in the case of that particular plant, by using wire that is wrapped around the trunk to strengthen it to make it stand up. So
Gotcha.
there are a lot of techniques that are a part of the bonsai function. Some things like the little Japanese maple you see there.
I mean, that's a little acer, isn't it? Right?
That, but in order to keep them dwarf, that's what is done to them, and that's part of the bonsai process.
Well, and again, that is what is intimidating to me. Now, again, if you've got these and you've got some time, you have to have a few little tools. Have we got the tools in yet from the they use specialized snips and
we
shears?
do have a few tools. I'm not sure what all we have in stock right now.
Okay.
We do have a handful.
But the most beautiful one that I've ever seen was actually in a museum, and it was a Japanese maple, and it was just glorious. But Michael, to answer your question, it was about 4.5 feet tall.
Okay.
But it was growing in a pot that looked like you wouldn't have enough room to do anything for it to get any kind of nutrition or anything out of it.
Back in the day, in 1980, I was living in Hawaii, and I got to attend an exhibit, a bonsai exhibit that Japan had shipped in to the botanical gardens there in Hawaii. And there was one specimen that was, I believe the tree was 550 years old, and it was about 3.5 feet tall and about maybe 3 feet wide. And the trunk was, it was massive. It's as though it filled the entire pot. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. It's hard to put into words. A living organism can be made to look that way. So it's quite the work of art and a labor of love to boot.
Now, the one to your just past the acer there, that is it looks like a rubber plant.
It's a Chinese elm.
That's a
Ooh.
really good candidate for bonsai, by the way.
And this one is 8 years old. Yeah.
Wow.
They grow slow and they're tight. That's a
Get
good one to
that,
play with. It's got
actually.
some cool branching structure to it.
Now,
There, so you can see it a little bit.
now,
better.
Austin, it sounds like you aspire to these, and do you have any of them that yourself?
Yeah, I do. I've been doing. I dabble in it, and I have ever since I kind of started. I think a big misconception I think people need to know about bonsai is that you don't have to start very small and grow it up, or like a bonsai isn't like a specialized seed of a tree or anything. So we've got customers and increasingly a lot of more numbers of people coming out looking for bonsai, and I can tell the type right off the bat of the people that I know that can bonsais because they're not looking at the overall plant all that much. They're looking at stems. So what you want to find is a plant that's got a nice fat chunky stem that you can just simply cut all the rest of the growth off of it and then restart more or less. So you've already got something that's got a stem that's already kind of fat. So you can do that with any nursery stock out here. I'm actually constantly looking around for plants that have a fat stem that I can play with. Shove it into put it into a much smaller pot and grow it from there. And honestly, I do it all the time out here. Y'all quit playing.
Yeah,
Well, it is my rant.
Now that elm.
Great job.
I mean, it
of
is
that.
my segment,
It is the
so.
one situation where that if you find a plant that is somewhat root bound and maybe not symmetrical, the bonsai is all about
Your feng and your shui and your
Exactly.
So,
Creating a
you
scene.
want to find something that's got that gnarled and kind of twisted look, and that typically happens. So occasionally we'll have a plant that somehow hangs around a bit too long, and they tend to make really nice bonsais.
Now, would that elm be deciduous?
Yes, that's a deciduous bonsai, and you need to let them go dormant. That's what Cary was mentioning earlier. We were talking about
Exactly.
is that deciduous plants need to drop their leaves over the winter, so we need to keep that out. And I don't recommend keeping it out in the, freezing cold winds or anything, but up
Covered
in next
porch.
your shed or on your porch.
Yeah, I would say that all of these plants that Cary has talked about this morning, those are all at least a zone 4 hardy.
Yes.
Now, say that the Japanese maple might be the exception. It might only be a 5, but and what that means is that if you have it in a container, which those obviously are, you effectively lose 2 hardiness zones. So even a zone 5 plant should theoretically be able to make it through a zone 7 winter. Now we have a really extreme temperature, you might need to make considerations. The thing of it is you can move them in when the weather is knowingly severe. But they, as Cary mentioned, they're going to be a lot better being outdoors. They need the sunlight, and they don't need to get juiced up with a warm, low light condition. They're going to be much happier outside.
So whatever the rules are for the juniper, you're going to want to try to get as much sun on any juniper as you can, right?
Exactly.
It makes sense.
Those might be the coolest plants I've ever seen. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's why I brought them on. I said, you know what? You're going to bring these on and show them off. And that's exactly what I've done.
And you can shape them.
What else you got there, Cary?
Yeah.
Oh, well, to my right, I have a croton. Great fall colors.
Good on salads.
Yeah, I like them too.
Really,
Yeah.
these crouton plants, fantastic on salad. Yeah, croutons. I see them in mixed planters all the time. We have some smaller ones back in the annual greenhouse that we got in with our fall shipment. Great kind of background for your mixed planters. If you do want to add that in, just know they're not going to overwinter outside. So you can dig them up, bring them in for the winter, and keep them as a house plant. On my left, right next to my hair, I've got this beautiful Cordyline. She's got little pink leaves on the edge. When the light comes through, she glows. Hot pink. I love her. And
also known as a Hawaiian tea plant, TI.
Yep. We actually have 4 different varieties in right now that we got in with our huge houseplant shipment. And then next to her is a Dracaena, which our garden center is currently full of. So come see me and I'll help you pick
and
out
as
a plant.
families go, Dracaena and philodendron are the 2 families of houseplants that are really the easiest for most people to take care of. They don't have extremely high light requirements, and they both really thrive on neglect.
I would say, especially Dracaena.
You're much better to let them get too dry than you are to keep them too wet.
Correct. Yeah, Dracaena does not like to stay wet. Anytime somebody comes in with a problem, whether it's bringing their plant in for us to diagnose it or pictures, I think every time it's been overwatering.
Now I see some mums too.
Oh, I did put some mums in front of Austin today. Yes. So, fall's coming in. Pumpkin spice lattes are popular. Tyler might be drinking one right now. So clearly
I mixed it.
You didn't check what he's drinking over there. I'm just saying. I don't know if it's pumpkin spice. What spice is that? Is that a mystery spice? What is it?
No, it's Dunkin' pumpkin spice cut with my usual blend ground together.
Oh,
You're so fancy.
Just a little bit of nutmeg. That's all I need. Just keep me going.
And just to wrap up my plant rant over here, I did make my first bonsai a few weeks ago out of a barberry, and I was quite proud of it. So congratulations, Cary. Thank you.
Cary,
Very good.
Cary, what's happening next week at the nursery?
What is happening next week at the nursery? I don't know. Something that I'm very excited about. Music City Tropicals, which she has been coming in here for years. She has been curating a collection of rare plants, rare philodendron, Hoya, Syngonium, lots of different things. But she will be here from 9 to 4, which are our open hours next Saturday, to run a rare plant sale, which she will be selling all of the plants she brings in. And she's told me some of the things that she has, and they are hard to find.
Wonder if we
and
could get her to
very
come in a
exciting.
little early.
Ooh, maybe. She might be setting up.
On top of setting up a booth.
Yeah, I feel like she might be a little
well, perhaps
bit
she could get in
slammed.
early enough for you to have a couple to show.
Yeah.
Help tease that up and give our viewers a little
Absolutely.
insight as to what.
Or a
is coming on.
GoPro shot of some
Or
sort.
a GoPro, yeah. We will definitely
We'll
get
speak with her.
something involved. Amy Childress is her name. She's fantastic, and one of the plants she is bringing that I'm very excited about, and you never see, is a white princess philodendron and a pink princess. But the white princess seems a little bit harder to find right now. So
Very
come
good.
on
All
down.
right.
Yeah.
Very
Hey,
good.
let's shift gears for just a moment,
Okay.
folks, and talk about Earth Mix garden products. If you're going to have success in growing plants, it starts at what you're planting in. And Earth Mix garden products, we really try to take every step we possibly can to not only make the soil blends completely organic, completely sustainably produced, but also the most viable and productive soils and amendments available anywhere. And of course, those are done so right here in Nashville, Tennessee, and using all the best available. We've spent years trying to source all of these various things to get the inputs that really make our products the very best. So we invite you to check out Earth Mix Garden products. No matter if you're doing organic vegetable gardening, you might use Earth Mix Supernatural or Earth Mix Garden. Or if you're doing indoor plants like Cary has just been displaying there, Proganics Eye. And there are other things we have available just as well for all manner of landscaping and gardening purposes. So make sure you want to go around Middle Tennessee area. You want to find it, go to Find Earth Mix tab right on the earthmix.net website and click on Find Earth Mix. And there you'll scroll down the page and you'll see that there are pins that will appear over the map. And it shows you locations all over Middle Tennessee, Kentucky, even up into Ohio and Indiana. So remember this, success in gardening begins at the ground level when you use Earth Mix Garden products. And we appreciate you giving us a moment to talk about that, help you have success in your gardening efforts.
All righty. Now, as we've mentioned, it's Michael's birthday.
True.
Yes.
Are you smile, Michael, it's your birthday.
It's also very early.
Oh, very early? What? It's your birthday all day long, Michael.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, he's maybe 37.
He's getting quiet all of a sudden, isn't he, Josh?
Now,
No, I'm very happy about it. I'm not happy about 9/11, but I'm happy that it's my birthday. I think I've got some pretty cool fishing stuff coming my way.
you think so?
I think so.
Okay.
My wife said put what I wanted in the Amazon cart, and then it wasn't in the cart. So,
so that's
somebody
cheating.
got it then. That sounds good. So
I mean,
when are you going fishing? When is your next trip? Have you planned that yet?
maybe tomorrow.
Depends on whether or not the gear gets in on Saturday delivery. Right?
Oh no, it is.
It is.
Yeah, a big old box that I wasn't supposed to look like came like 2 days ago.
And where do you typically fish, Michael?
Just wherever. I got a friend at church. He's got a section of the Red River that goes down past his house, and I like fly fishing, but there's not a lot. There's some trout in the Black Branch up in Springfield, but you can fly fish for like panfish and stuff like that too. Bass.
He needs to go out with Fish and Nation. That's what he needs to do.
I can't afford Fish and Nation.
Yeah, you can.
I can't afford Fish and
He is a
Nation.
top shelf guide, and the services
you
he
mentioned
provides
Top
are
Shelf
stellar.
and Chris
It's the reason
Nation.
why he travels the world doing that.
Yeah.
But no, my little boy's been getting into fly fishing too. I keep telling you, I love my son because he loves all the same stuff I do, but that just means he's becoming as boring as I am, I guess. His favorite thing to watch on YouTube now is a show called The New Fly Fisher, which is about these guys that go fly fishing, mostly up in Labrador, but all over the place. And he'll sit there and watch it, and he won't say a word. He'll just watch the whole thing.
Interesting. Mine watched Barney. So, I mean, they love Barney.
You still watch Barney, don't you, Josh?
Occasionally, we'll bring out the Barney. We'll bring out the Barney when he needs to.
He didn't learn the part from Barney that says, listen more than you talk.
I love you. You love me.
And,
okay,
hey, David.
moving right along then. Thank you, Michael. And again, happy birthday to you. And we want to thank everybody who has taken the time out of their busy Saturday to start their day with us. And we invite you to come out and see us at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. And we've got a wide array of plants, products for whatever landscape situation you've got going on. And we've got more than the plants. We've got the staff and expertise to help you sort through all of this. I mean, for the biggest challenge for a lot of folks is trying to figure out what to get. And that's where we really hope to prove the difference, is to be able to help you parse through all of this and focus in on the things that are going to be best for you and your landscape. So thanks. And come out to see us. By the way, I forgot to mention earlier, we're now open on Sundays.
Sunday.
Noon until 4.
Wow.
So 9 to 4 today, noon to 4 on Sunday through the fall season. So make sure you come out and see us. We always appreciate it. And thank you for taking the time to tune in today.
Alrighty. Now, music means that this edition of the At Home Show is coming to a close, but next Saturday morning, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back here. Hey, go out to YouTube, like and subscribe. Go out to the Facebook page, like and subscribe, and just so you get the notifications. Hey, if you folks of the Tennessee Gardeners Group, come and join us, because I think you're going to find out that we're going to be here for you when you need us to. But for everyone here on the At Home Show crew, I want to thank you again for being here. And next Saturday morning, we'll come to you again alive for another hour right here from the Green Room Studios at Bates Nursery and Garden Center.